I'm standing in my doorway when I see her car pull up. A Honda Civic, not the Lexus she drove off with 6 months ago. That tells me everything before she even steps out. She's crying before she reaches my porch. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants I remember buying her 3 Christmases ago. The irony isn't lost on me. "Please," she says, voice breaking. "Can we just talk? I need to tell you something." I don't move from the doorframe. My hand stays on the door, ready. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "I made a mistake." She takes a step closer, and I see her eyes are puffy, red. "A huge mistake. I didn't realize what I had until..." "Until what?" I ask calmly. "Until your new life didn't work out?" "It's not like that." She's crying harder now. "Please, Mark, can I just come in? We can talk about this, about us, about the kids." "The kids?" Of course she'd bring them up. I take a breath. 6 months ago, this moment would have destroyed me. 6 months ago, I would have let her in, begged her to stay, promised to be better. 6 months ago, I was a different person. Those days are over, Sarah. "Mark, please." I close the door, not a slam, just a firm, final click of the latch. Through the window, I watch her stand there for maybe 2 minutes. Then she walks back to her car, shoulders shaking. She sits in the driver's seat for another 5 minutes before driving away. I return to my kitchen, where my coffee is still warm on the counter. Let me tell you how I got here. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. "You know Lisa's husband just made partner, right?" Sarah said it casually, like she was commenting on the weather. We were at the Johnsons' dinner party, surrounded by her friends from the country club she insisted we join even though we couldn't afford it. The membership alone cost $3,000 a year, money I'd argued we didn't have, but she'd signed us up anyway. "That's great for them," I replied, cutting into my steak that probably cost $40, money I was already calculating against our grocery budget. "He's 34, you're 36. I felt the table go quiet. Not silent, but that particular kind of quiet where everyone is suddenly very interested in their food while listening to every word. Jessica, sitting across from us, had stopped mid-sip of her wine. Her husband Tom was studying his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. Even the Johnsons, at the head of the table, had gone still. "Different careers, different timelines," I said evenly, taking another bite of steak I could barely taste. "Different ambitions, maybe." She laughed, and her friends laughed with her, that uncomfortable laughter that says they know this is cruel, but they're relieved they're not the target. "I'm just saying, Mark works in operations management. It's not exactly exciting, is it? Tom, didn't you say your company is always looking for real leadership talent?" Tom shifted uncomfortably. Well, different industries." See, even Tom's being diplomatic about it. Sarah reached for her wine glass, and I noticed her nails were freshly manicured, $70 at minimum. "I mean, we're lucky I'm not charging you rent to live with me, right?" More laughter, this time louder, more certain. I was the approved target now. Fair game. Jessica leaned towards Sarah. "Oh my God, you're terrible." But she was smiling. "Though honestly, Sarah, I don't know how you do it. If Robert weren't bringing in what he brings in, I'd lose my mind. Right?" Sarah swirled her wine. "It's like having a teenager. They contribute just enough to justify their existence, but you're essentially carrying them." "I contribute plenty," I said quietly. "Do you, though?" She turned to me, her expression one I'd seen before. Not quite contempt, more like disappointment mixed with embarrassment. "When was the last time we went on a real vacation? When was the last time I didn't have to budget for basics?" "We have a comfortable life." "Comfortable." She practically spat the word. That's such a Mark word. Comfortable. You know what's comfortable? Living paycheck to paycheck. Never having a cushion. Explaining to my friends why I can't join them in Cabo because my husband thinks a weekend at a Holiday Inn is a vacation. Mr. Johnson cleared his throat. "Sarah, I think—" "No, it's fine," she cut him off. "Mark knows I'm just joking, don't you, honey?" She patted my hand, and somehow that was worse than the words. He's very understanding about his limitations. I smiled too, because that's what you do. You laugh along with the joke even when you're the punchline. You pretend the knife isn't going in. You keep chewing your $40 steak, and you nod, and you make it through dinner. That night wasn't unique. It was just another Tuesday. But it was also the night I started making a list in my head. Not a conscious thing, not at first. Just a mental catalog of all the little cuts, all the small humiliations, all the ways she made sure I knew I wasn't enough. At home, it was worse because there was no audience to perform for. Or maybe the performance was just for me, to see how much I'd tolerate. "Do you know how embarrassing it is when my friends ask what you do?" she said one evening, standing in our bedroom doorway while I was getting ready for bed. I'd just gotten home from a 12-hour day, exhausted, and found her waiting like a lawyer ready to present her case. "I'm a senior operations coordinator," I said, pulling off my tie. "And it's a good job." "For someone with no ambition, sure." She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Jessica told me today that her husband surprised her with a trip to Paris." "Paris, Mark? Do you know where you took me for our last anniversary?" "Olive Garden." "Olive Garden." She repeated it like I'd suggested we eat garbage. "With a coupon." "A gift card." "That my mother gave us for Christmas." "Even better, we used your mother's gift card to celebrate our marriage. Very romantic, very impressive." I sat on the edge of the bed, too tired for this argument. Too tired for any argument. "Sarah, I'm doing my best." "Your best is Olive Garden with a gift card. Meanwhile, Lisa's going to Italy this summer. Jessica went to Paris. Even Beth, who married an accountant, for God's sake, just got back from Costa Rica." "Maybe we should talk about budgeting differently," I suggested, knowing even as I said it that this was the wrong approach. "Budgeting differently?" Her voice went sharp. "Mark, we don't have a budgeting problem. We have an income problem, specifically your income problem." "I make decent money." "Decent," that word again. "You make decent money for someone with no drive to make more. Do you know what Jessica's husband did when he wanted to earn more? He went out and got it. He networked. He took risks. He showed some fucking ambition." You've been working on the same position for 4 years, Mark. Meanwhile, Jessica's husband just bought her a Maserati. A fucking Maserati. And I drive a Lexus we can barely afford to maintain. We have different priorities." "No," she snapped, pushing off the doorframe and walking toward me. "I have priorities. You have excuses. I want nice things. I want to travel. I want to not worry about money. I want a husband who provides, not just survives. I provide for our family. You provide enough to keep the lights on. Congratulations. So does every other person with a job. But providing and thriving are two different things." She left the room then, and I heard her go downstairs. The TV clicked on. Some reality show about rich housewives, probably. Her favorite kind, the ones that reminded her of everything she didn't have. I learned to stop defending myself. Every defense became another conversation about my failures. Every explanation turned into evidence of my inadequacy. So I stayed quiet, went to work, came home, and tried to be invisible. But invisibility didn't work either, because silent acceptance wasn't what she wanted. She wanted reaction. She wanted me to fight back so she could win, or to grovel so she could feel superior. My silence was just another disappointment. The financial humiliation was constant and creative, like she'd taken a master class in emotional warfare. When we went grocery shopping, she'd sigh loudly at the register. "Can we really afford organic, Mark? Or should I put some things back? I know we need to save money since your salary isn't exactly competitive." The cashier would look away, embarrassed for us both. Other shoppers would pretend not to notice, and I'd pull out my card, feeling smaller with each beep of the scanner. When her mother visited, her mother who'd never liked me, who'd told Sarah she could do better, Sarah would make sure to mention, "Mark's still at the same salary, Mom. We're managing, though. I've gotten really good at stretching $1." Her mother would make that sympathetic clicking sound with her tongue. "Well, at least he's consistent, dear. Some men can't even maintain a job." "Silver linings," Sarah would say, and they'd share a look that said everything they weren't saying out loud. When friends came over, she'd joke, "Mark handles the budget," by which I mean he tells me what we can't afford, which is apparently everything. Then she'd turn to me with a bright smile. "Right, honey, everything's a budget discussion." "We just try to be careful," I'd say, and everyone would nod sympathetically while making mental notes to feel grateful for their own spouses. Everyone laughed, including me, eventually. What else could I do? Arguing made it worse. Silence made it worse. Agreeing made it worse. There was no right response except to endure. I started working longer hours, partly because I thought maybe I could earn more, get that promotion, prove her wrong, partly because home had become a place where I was constantly reminded of my inadequacy. At work, I was competent, valued. At home, I was a disappointment with a paycheck. But the longer hours didn't help. They gave her ammunition. "You're never home," she complained one evening when I walked in at 8 p.m. She was on the couch, wine glass in hand, some Real Housewives episode paused on the TV. "And for what? You're still making the same money. You're just avoiding us." "I'm trying to provide for this family," I said, setting my bag down. "You're trying to hide from this family. There's a difference." She took a sip of wine. Emma asked where you were at dinner. I told her you were working late. Again. She asked if you had to work late because we needed money, so I said yes, because Daddy doesn't make enough during regular hours. My stomach dropped. You said that to our daughter? I said the truth. Would you prefer I lie? Tell her everything's fine when we're barely staying afloat. We're not barely staying afloat. We have a house, food, everything we need. Need isn't the same as want, Mark, but you've never understood that distinction. I wanted to scream that I was hiding from her, from the constant belittling, from the feeling that nothing I did would ever be enough. But I didn't. I just nodded and went upstairs to shower, where I could at least have 10 minutes of peace. The breaking point started small, like these things do, like continental drift, imperceptible day by day, catastrophic in the long run. I came home with flowers one Friday, a cheap bouquet from the grocery store, but I thought it might be nice. A gesture, something to show I was thinking about her, that I was trying. The house was quiet when I walked in. Sarah was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone. What are these? She asked, barely glancing at them. Flowers, for you. How much did you spend on these? I don't know. $12? She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. $12. We're behind on the electric bill, Mark. But sure, buy flowers. That makes sense. I put them in the trash. She saw me do it and didn't say a word. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how we'd gotten here. We used to be happy, or at least I thought we had been. Maybe I'd been fooling myself the whole time. The next morning, she was in the kitchen with her phone, laughing at something. What's funny? I asked, pouring coffee. Jessica just sent me a photo of her new bracelet. $10,000. Can you imagine? That's a lot. Yeah. She looked at me then. Really looked at me, and I saw something in her expression I couldn't quite name. Disappointment, maybe, or disgust. Must be nice to have a husband who can afford nice things. Sarah, I'm going to get my nails done, she said, grabbing her purse. Don't wait up. She charged $200 to our joint credit card that afternoon. I saw it when I checked our account that evening. We had maybe $800 left until payday, and rent was due in a week. I didn't say anything. What was the point? The kids noticed, though they tried to hide it. Why does Mom always seem mad at you? My daughter Emma asked one evening. She was 9, too perceptive for her own good. She's not mad, sweetheart. She's just stressed. About money? About lots of things. Adults get stressed sometimes. Jacob's dad bought them a boat, my son Tyler said. He was 7, obsessed with boats. Can we get a boat? Maybe someday, buddy. Mom said we can't afford it because you don't make enough money. The words hit me like a punch. She was poisoning them against me casually, without even thinking about it. That's not exactly what she meant, I said carefully. But no, we can't afford a boat right now. Jacob's dad is cool, Tyler said matter-of-factly. He has a sports car, too. I tucked them in that night and sat in the living room in the dark. Sarah was already asleep, or pretending to be. I thought about my father, who worked 2 jobs to support our family and never complained. I thought about the man I'd wanted to become and the man I'd actually turned into. I was 36 years old, and I felt like a failure. The worst part? I was starting to believe I deserved it. The end came on a Tuesday. Of course it was a Tuesday. Mondays are too predictable for catastrophe. Tuesdays sneak up on you. I'd worked late again, trying to finish a project that might lead to a promotion. My boss had hinted at it, said there were opportunities for advancement if I showed initiative. So I stayed until the office was dark and empty, until the cleaning crew came through, until my eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets. I came home around 9 to find Sarah sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of wine, her laptop open. The kitchen was dark except for the glow of the screen and the light over the stove. It felt like walking into an interrogation room. You're late, she said without looking up. I texted you. I set my bag down by the door, suddenly exhausted in a way that went beyond physical. Right, working late. Again, for that job that's going nowhere. I was tired. Bone tired. The kind of exhaustion that strips away your filters and makes you say things you shouldn't. The kind that makes you stop caring about consequences. What do you want from me, Sarah? She looked up then, eyes sharp in the laptop's glow. Excuse me? I'm working. I'm trying. I don't know what else you want. I want a partner, she snapped, closing the laptop with more force than necessary. Not a child I have to support. Do you know what it's like living with someone who can't even provide basic financial security? I provide plenty. You provide excuses. She stood up, and I saw she'd been crying. Her mascara was smudged. I'm done, Mark. I can't do this anymore. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and final. Can't do what? I asked, though some part of me already knew. This, us, being married to someone with no ambition, no drive, no future. I feel like a single mother with a child for a husband. Actually, scratch that. A child would be less disappointing. The words landed like physical blows, each one precise, calculated to hurt. You don't mean that, I said quietly, even though I knew she did. I do. I really do. She grabbed her wine glass, draining what was left. I want a divorce. The word echoed in the quiet kitchen. Divorce. Simple, final, irrevocable. I stood there, frozen. Part of me had known this was coming, had seen it building like a storm on the horizon. But knowing and hearing are different things. Anticipating and experiencing are oceans apart. Sarah, wait. We can work on this. We can go to counseling. I'm done working on it, she cut me off. I'm done pretending. I'm done explaining to my friends why my husband can't provide what their husbands provide without even trying. I deserve better than this. What about the kids? The kids deserve better too. They deserve to see their mother happy, not stuck with someone who's given up on life, who's content with mediocrity while everyone else is succeeding. I haven't given up on anything. Then prove it, she said, her voice rising. But prove it to someone else. Because I'm done. I'm done with this house that we can barely afford. I'm done with budgeting and penny pinching and watching my friends live lives I can only dream about. I'm done with you. The last 3 words were quiet, almost gentle, which somehow made them worse. She picked up her laptop and her wine glass and walked toward the stairs. Where are you sleeping? I called after her. Our bedroom. You can have the couch. She paused on the bottom step. And Mark? Call a lawyer. I'm filing tomorrow. I heard the bedroom door close, then the lock click. I slept on the couch that night, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house creak and settle. I kept waiting to feel something, rage, grief, panic, but there was just numbness, just the sense that something inevitable had finally happened. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Emma and Tyler are at my mother's. Don't contact them until we figure this out legally. She'd taken my kids before I even knew the game had started. And the next night. And the one after that. 2 weeks later, she filed for divorce. I got the papers at work, delivered by a process server who looked apologetic as he handed them over. My coworkers tried not to stare. James, from accounting, patted my shoulder and said, "Let me know if you need anything, man." I nodded and went to the bathroom where I could read the papers without an audience. The legal language was cold, clinical, irreconcilable differences, petition for dissolution of marriage, custody arrangements, asset division. Her lawyer was aggressive, some guy named Richard Stone, whose billboards I'd seen around town. "Stone cold when it matters," was his tagline. Mine was cheap because cheap was all I could afford. A recent graduate named Mike Chen, who worked out of a strip mall office and answered his own phone. She got temporary custody because she argued I worked too much to care for the kids properly. The irony was suffocating. She'd spent years telling me I didn't make enough, and now she was using my attempts to make more against me. "Your client works until 9 p.m. regularly," Richard Stone said at the first hearing, his voice smooth and practiced. "He's frequently out of town for work. He's demonstrated that his career takes priority over his children's needs. My client, meanwhile, has been the primary caregiver throughout the marriage. She knows their teachers' names, their doctors' phone numbers, their friends' parents. She is the stable, present parent." Mike, my lawyer, stuttered through a response about how employment shouldn't disqualify someone from parenthood. The judge looked tired and unimpressed. "Temporary custody to Mrs. Ellis," she said. "Visitation every other weekend and Wednesday evenings pending final determination." Sarah smiled. I felt something crack inside my chest. She got the car, the Lexus we'd bought with a loan I was still paying off. Mike tried to argue that since I was making the payments, I should get the car. Stone countered that Sarah needed reliable transportation for the children. The judge agreed. She got the house. Technically, she got to stay in it until the divorce was finalized, which meant I had to leave. The house we'd bought together. The house where I'd painted Emma's bedroom purple and built Tyler's treehouse. The house where every memory, good and bad, lived. "You can collect your belongings," the judge said, "but Mrs. Ellis will maintain residence." I packed my clothes, my laptop, a few books. I stood in Tyler's room, looking at the boat models we'd built together, and had to walk away before I broke down completely. And she emptied our savings account. All $8,000. Her lawyer argued it was her money too. They'd been joint accounts, and technically, legally, they were right. She needs resources to maintain the household, Stone said. To care for the children, to meet their needs while Mr. Ellis is, let's be honest, barely meeting his own. Mike tried to argue. That money was saved jointly. And it will be accounted for in the final settlement, the judge cut him off. Motion granted. $8,000, gone. Years of saving $20 here, $50 there, skipping lunches, avoiding purchases, building a safety net that Sarah pulled out from under me with a single motion. I moved into a rented room in a house with 3 other guys. The ad on Craigslist had said, affordable, quiet, perfect for professionals. The reality was a converted house near the industrial district where the rent was cheap because the neighborhood was rough. My roommates were all younger than me, all single, all wondering what a divorced 36-year-old was doing there. Jake was 25, worked in IT, and lived off energy drinks and Red Baron pizzas. Chris was 28, a bartender who slept during the day and reeked of cigarettes. David was 30, unemployed, and spent most of his time playing video games in the living room. "Hey, man," Jake said when I moved in, helping me carry my 2 suitcases up the stairs. "Sorry about the stairs, and the bathroom, and, pretty much everything. It's not much." "It's fine," I said. "I just need somewhere to land for a while." My room had a mattress on the floor, Jake's old one that he'd upgraded from, a lamp he didn't need anymore, a closet with a door that didn't close properly. The window looked out at a chain-link fence and the back of a warehouse. This was rock bottom. This was what my life had become. I had $700 in my checking account when I moved in, the first of many months where I'd have to perform financial triage, deciding which bills to pay, which to delay, which to ignore entirely. The car payments, phone bill, and credit card minimums would take $500 of that, leaving $200 for gas, food, and whatever else life decided to throw at me. I ate ramen for dinner and skipped breakfast. I walked to work when I could to save gas, 45 minutes each way, but it saved money and gave me time to think, or try not to think. I ignored calls from collection agencies because I didn't have anything to give them. "Mr. Ellis, this is Amanda from Capital One regarding your account ending in 4721. We show a balance of $347 with a minimum payment of $170 that's now 30 days past due. Delete. This is a message for Mark Ellis from First Bank Collections. Your account has been sent to our department due to non-payment. Delete. Mark, this is Sarah's lawyer, Richard Stone. We need to discuss your child support obligations. Please return my call. Delete." The shame was constant, crushing. Every declined card, every overdraft fee, every notice, every call. One evening, my card was declined buying groceries. $23 worth of food, ramen, bread, peanut butter, the cheapest basics I could find, and I couldn't pay for it. "Do you want to try another card?" the cashier asked, trying to be kind. She was young, maybe 20, with kind eyes and a name tag that said Melissa. "I don't have another card." "Oh." She looked uncomfortable. "Do you want to put something back?" Behind me, I could feel the line of people waiting, watching, judging, some guy who couldn't even afford $23 of food. I put back everything except the ramen and a loaf of bread, 6 on 47ers. My card went through. Walking back to my room, paper bag in hand, I passed a bar. The kind with happy hour specials and people who looked like they had their shit together. People in business casual laughing over beers, groups of friends celebrating something, normal people living normal lives. I stood outside for 10 minutes, wanting to go in, wanting to drink until I couldn't feel the humiliation anymore. Until I couldn't remember my kids' faces when I dropped them back at Sarah's. Until I couldn't hear her lawyer's voice echoing in my head. But I didn't. I couldn't afford it, for one. And for another, I was afraid if I started, I wouldn't stop. That I'd become the failure Sarah always said I was. So I kept walking. That night, lying on my mattress on the floor, listening to Chris come home drunk at 2 a.m., listening to David's video game through the thin walls, I stared at the water-stained ceiling and thought about calling Sarah, about begging her to reconsider, about promising to be better, richer, more ambitious, about apologizing for being inadequate. I didn't do that either. Instead, I cried. Ugly, choking sobs that I muffled with my pillow so my roommates wouldn't hear. And then, when the crying stopped, I made a decision. The decision was simple. I was done being ashamed. Not done feeling the shame, that was still there, heavy and constant, like a weight chained to my chest, but done letting it control me, done letting it define me, done letting it be the final word on who I was and what I could become. I started small because small was all I could manage. The next morning, I went to work early, not to impress anyone, but because sitting in my room was torture. The walls were thin enough that I could hear everything, Jake's alarm at 5 a.m., Chris stumbling and drunk at 2, David's video games until 3. Sleep was fitful, broken, more exhausting than restful. So I went to work. At my desk by 6 a.m., I started reviewing everything I'd been putting off. Old projects that had languished, pending reports I'd been procrastinating on, certifications I'd started and never finished because Sarah had made it clear that self-improvement without immediate financial return was wasting time. The office was quiet at that hour, just the hum of computers, the buzz of overhead lights, the click of my keyboard, peaceful in a way my life hadn't been in years. My boss, Patricia, arrived at 7:30 and found me already deep in work, 3 completed reports stacked beside my keyboard. "You're here early," she said, setting her coffee down at her desk across the aisle. "Trying to catch up on some things?" She looked at me for a long moment, and I wondered what she saw. The bags under my eyes? The weight I'd lost? The defeat I was trying to mask? "Everything okay, Mark?" Her voice was gentle, which almost broke me. "Getting there," I managed. She nodded slowly. "Let me know if you need anything, and I mean anything. We have resources. I'm okay, really. Just focusing on work." "All right, but my door's open." I did need things. I needed training. I needed skills. I needed to be better at my job than I currently was, better than Sarah said I could be. That evening, back in my rented room, I researched certification programs on my phone. The laptop had been left at the house, another casualty of the hasty departure. Supply chain management, project management, Six Sigma, lean manufacturing. Terms I'd heard but never pursued because they required time and money I never seemed to have. Most cost money I didn't have. $800 here, $1,200 there. Might as well have been $1 million. But some were subsidized by the company. I just never bothered to apply. Never thought I was worth the investment. Never believed I could complete them even if I tried. Sarah's voice echoed in my head. "You've been working on the same position for 4 years." I submitted 3 applications that night, sitting on my mattress with my phone's brightness turned down to save battery. Advanced logistics certification, supply chain optimization, warehouse management systems. My phone battery died at 11%, and I'd forgotten my charger at work, so I lay in the dark and wondered if any of it would matter. If I was kidding myself, thinking I could change. 2 weeks later, I got an email. "Congratulations! You've been accepted into the Advanced Logistics Certification Program." I read it 3 times to make sure it was real. The program started the following Tuesday. Classes every Tuesday and Thursday evening, 6 to 9 p.m., 12 weeks long. The email said to bring a notebook and a willingness to learn. I showed up to the first class exhausted, hungry. I'd skip lunch to save money, and terrified I'd be the oldest, dumbest person there. That everyone would look at me and see what Sarah saw, a man who'd peaked early and plateaued into irrelevance. The classroom was in a community college building, fluorescent lit and institutional. 20 people sat in desk chairs arranged in a semicircle. Some looked fresh out of college. Some looked older than me. Some looked just as tired and desperate as I felt. The instructor, a woman named Rita, who'd worked in logistics for 25 years, started the first class with a question. "Why are you here?" People gave various answers. Career advancement, better opportunities, pay raise, company requirement. When it was my turn, everyone was looking at me, waiting. "Because I have to be," I said. My voice sounded hollow in the quiet room. "Because if I don't change something, I'm going to drown." The room went quiet. A few people nodded. Rita smiled. "That's the best reason," she said. "The people who come here because they have to are the ones who actually finish. The ones who need it are the ones who make it count." For the first time in months, I felt like I was in the right place. I threw myself into the program with the desperation of a drowning man reaching for a rope. Studied during my lunch breaks, sitting in my car with sandwiches I'd made from the cheapest bread and lunch meat. Reviewed notes before bed, my phone propped on the pillow beside me. Attended every class, answered every question, completed every assignment like my life depended on it. Because it did. The first exam came 3 weeks in. Multiple choice, some essay questions, case studies. I studied for a week, reviewing materials until I could recite them in my sleep. I got a 97. Rita handed back the exams and smiled at me. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." At work, I started volunteering for the assignments no one wanted. Weekend inventory audits that required being in the warehouse at 6 a.m. on Saturday. Early morning client calls with European partners. The night shift coverage that everyone avoided because it meant working 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. "You don't have to do all this," my coworker James said one Friday evening as I stayed late again. He was packing up, heading out to happy hour with friends. I know. You okay, man? You seem intense, like you're running from something. Maybe I was, but I was also running toward something. I just didn't know what yet. Just focused, I said. He shrugged. Whatever works, but don't burn out. This job isn't worth dying for. Maybe not, but rebuilding my life was. 3 months in, Patricia called me into her office on a Wednesday afternoon. I'd been at work since 6 a.m., was planning to stay until at least 7. My certification class was that night. Close the door, she said. My stomach dropped. Was I in trouble? Had I screwed something up? Was I being let go? She saw my face and shook her head. Relax, you're not in trouble. I sat down, hands gripped tight in my lap. I've been watching you, she said, leaning back in her chair. Okay. The late hours, the certification program, the extra shifts, the improvement in your work quality, the initiative you've been showing. She paused. What changed? I didn't know what to say. The truth felt too raw, too personal, too much like admitting I'd been broken and was desperately trying to glue myself back together. I decided to be better, I finally said. Well, it's working. She slid a folder across the desk. Effective next month, you're being promoted to Senior Operations Manager. 22% salary increase. New office. Your own team. You've earned it. I stared at the paper, not quite believing what I was reading. The numbers swam in front of my eyes. 22%? On my current salary, that was. That was enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to pay my bills without panicking. Enough to start digging out of the hole. Thank you. I managed, my voice thick. Don't thank me. You did this. Keep it up, and this won't be your last promotion. Walking out of her office, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Real, genuine pride in myself. That evening, I sat in my certification class and couldn't focus. The numbers kept running through my head, the salary increase, the title, the office. Tangible proof that I wasn't what Sarah had said I was. After class, I called Mike, my lawyer. Mark, good timing. I was just about to call you. About what? The judge agreed to revisit custody. With your promotion and new schedule, we can argue for 50-50. And Sarah's lawyer can't use your work hours against you anymore since you'll have a team and more flexibility, more time with my kids, more chances to be present, to show them I wasn't the failure their mother implied I was. That's great. You've been doing good, man. I can tell. Keep it up. That night, lying on my mattress, I opened the calculator app on my phone and did the math. With the new salary, I could actually breathe. I could pay down my debt faster. I could save. I could rebuild. I opened a new savings account that night on my phone, set up automatic transfers, even just $50 a paycheck to start, created a budget that was aggressive but achievable, cut every unnecessary expense I could think of. No more delivery food, not that I'd been ordering any, no more impulse purchases, no more wasted money on things that didn't matter. The first month with the new salary felt like being able to breathe after nearly drowning. I paid off 2 credit cards completely, $3,200 total. Seeing those balances hit zero was better than any drug. The second month, I paid off the car I was still driving, the old Honda I'd bought for $3,000 cash from a coworker who felt sorry for me. It ran rough and needed new brakes, but it was mine. The third month, I started saving serious money. Not $50, not $100, $500 into savings, then $600, then $7. My roommates noticed the change too. You're different, Jake said one evening. We were in the kitchen. He was microwaving pizza rolls. I was meal prepping for the week. Chicken, rice, vegetables. The same boring meals, but they were cheap and healthy. More? I don't know. Together. I'm trying. It's working, man. You look good. Like you looked pretty rough when you moved in. No offense. None taken. I was rough when I moved in. And now you're not. What changed? Everything. Nothing. I decided to stop dying and start living. I decided I was worth the effort, I said. Jake nodded thoughtfully. That's deep, man. I'd started running in the mornings, too. Nothing crazy, just 30 minutes before work. Around the neighborhood, past the chain-link fences and warehouses, through the sketchy parts and back. It gave me time to think. Or not think. To just exist in my body instead of my head. I'd lost 15 pounds without trying. Started sleeping better, even on the thin mattress. Stopped checking Sarah's social media every night. Stopped checking it entirely, actually. Blocked her on everything except the co-parenting app we used. Stopped thinking about her entirely on some days. 6 months after she'd left, I got another promotion. Patricia called me into her office again, and this time I wasn't surprised. I'd been expecting it, hoping for it. Regional Operations Director, she said, 30% salary increase over your current rate. You'll be managing 3 facilities. It's a big job. I can handle it. I know you can. That's why we're offering it. I was making almost double what I'd earned when Sarah left. Double in 6 months. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I didn't dwell on it. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me, about proving to myself that I was capable, that I had value, that I wasn't the failure I'd been made to feel like. With the new salary, I started seriously looking at houses. Not big ones, not flashy ones, just something clean, quiet, and mine. A place where my kids could have their own rooms, where I could cook dinner in peace, where I could build the life I'd always wanted but never believed I deserved. I found a 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood. Small yard, 2-car garage, needed some work, the kitchen was outdated, the carpet was worn, the paint was builder beige, but it was solid. Good bones, as my father would have said. The price was right at the top of my budget, but I could make it work. I'd been saving aggressively. I had a down payment, I had stable income, I had proof that I was worth the investment. I made an offer on a Friday. It was accepted on Sunday. 30 days later, on a warm September afternoon, I stood in front of my house, with keys in my hand and tears in my eyes. I'd done it. Against every odd, against every humiliation, against everyone who said I couldn't, I'd clawed my way back. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was living. The house became my sanctuary. I furnished it slowly, carefully. Nothing expensive, but everything chosen deliberately. A comfortable couch from IKEA, a kitchen table from a local furniture store, beds for the guest rooms for when the kids stayed over, because they were staying over now. Every other weekend, just like the custody agreement specified. The first time Emma and Tyler came to the new house, they stood in the driveway with their mouths open. "This is yours?" Emma asked. "This is ours," I corrected. "When you're here, this is your home too." Tyler ran inside immediately, claiming the bigger bedroom. Emma followed more slowly, taking everything in. "It's nice, Dad," she said quietly. "Really nice." "Thank you, sweetheart." "Does Mom know?" "She knows I moved. I'm not sure if she knows where." Emma nodded, something complicated crossing her face. At 10 now, she was old enough to understand more than she let on. That weekend, we set up their rooms together. Emma wanted purple walls. Tyler wanted a bookshelf for his growing collection of boat models. We went to Home Depot, picked out paint, spent Saturday morning transforming their spaces. "This is fun," Tyler said. Paint streaked across his forehead. "We never did stuff like this at Mom's." "Well, we're doing it now." Sunday evening, when I dropped them back at Sarah's, Emma hugged me extra tight. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, Em." I drove away feeling lighter than I had in years. Work continued to improve. My team respected me. My superiors noticed my results. I was invited to strategy meetings, asked for input on major decisions, trusted with bigger projects. "You've really come into your own," Patricia said one afternoon. "I'm glad we promoted you when we did." "Thank you for taking a chance on me." "It wasn't a chance. You proved yourself." I started making friends again. Real friends, not just Sarah's social circle where I'd always felt like an accessory. There was Derek from the gym I'd finally joined, Marcus from work, Lisa, a project manager from another department who was sharp, funny, and had no idea about my past. We grabbed coffee sometimes, talked about work and life and the usual things people talk about. "You seeing anyone?" she asked one afternoon. "No, divorced recently, still figuring things out." "That's fair. When you're ready, though, don't wait too long. Good guys don't stay single forever." I smiled. "I'll keep that in mind." But dating felt distant, unimportant. I was focused on stability, on being present for my kids, on maintaining the life I'd built, the life that felt impossibly fragile, like one wrong move would bring it all crashing down. Therapy helped with that. I'd started going 3 months after the divorce, when the shame and anger became too much to carry alone. Dr. Williams was patient, practical, and didn't let me wallow. "You're not responsible for how she treated you," he said during one session. "You're only responsible for how you respond now." I know that intellectually. But emotionally? Emotionally, I still wonder if she was right, if I was really that inadequate. "Do you think you were?" I thought about my house, my job, My kids' faces when they stayed with me, the pride I felt now when I looked in the mirror. No, I said. I don't think I was. Then stop giving her the power to make you believe it. Easier said than done, but I was working on it. I stopped checking her social media entirely. Blocked her on everything except the co-parenting app we used to coordinate kid schedules. I didn't know what she was doing, who she was seeing, how she was living. I didn't want to know. My life was finally, blessedly, my own. I found out from Emma. We were making pancakes one Sunday morning when she said, casually, "Mom's boyfriend moved out." I kept my voice neutral. "Oh?" "Yeah, they had a big fight. He said some mean things. Mom was crying." "I'm sorry you had to see that, sweetheart." "It's okay. I don't think I liked him anyway." "Why not?" She shrugged, pouring syrup on her pancakes. "He was always on his phone, and he talked to Mom like she was stupid sometimes, made jokes that weren't funny." The irony hit me like a truck. She'd left me for someone who treated her the way she'd treated me. "Well, I hope your mom's okay," I said, and meant it. Not because I still loved her, but because she was my kid's mother and her pain was their pain. "She seems stressed a lot," Emma continued. "Always worried about money." That caught my attention. "Money?" "Yeah. Like the other day, she said we couldn't do soccer this year because it costs too much, and she keeps talking about moving to a smaller place. If you need anything..." "I know, Dad. You always say that." Over the next few weeks, I pieced together more of the story through the kids' casual comments. Sarah's boyfriend, some guy named Derek, who apparently had money, had turned out to be controlling and unreliable. He'd pay for things, then hold it over her head. He'd make big promises, then disappear for days. When she'd finally asked him to commit, he'd laughed at her. "You're a single mom with 2 kids, he'd apparently said. "What did you expect?" He'd moved out 2 months ago, left her with rent she couldn't afford on her own. The Lexus had been repossessed because she'd missed 3 payments. Her friends had stopped inviting her places because she couldn't afford to go out anymore. She was, according to Emma, sad all the time. I didn't feel good hearing this. I didn't feel vindicated or satisfied. I just felt tired. Then the texts started. The first one came on a Wednesday evening. Sarah. "Hey, hope you're well. The kids mentioned your new place looks nice." I didn't respond. 2 days later, Sarah. "I wanted to thank you for being so good with the kids lately. They really love spending time with you." Still no response. A week later, Sarah. "Can we talk? Not about us, just about co-parenting. I think we should communicate more." I kept my response brief. Me. "The app works fine for coordinating schedules." Sarah. "I meant actually talking. Voice to voice. Person to person." Me. "I don't think that's necessary." Sarah. "Please, Mark, just a conversation." Me. "I have to go. Have a good night." The texts became more frequent, more desperate. Sarah. "The kids really miss you when they're here. Tyler asks about you constantly." Sarah. "I was thinking about that trip we took to Colorado. Remember how happy we were?" Sarah. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd tried harder?" Sarah. "I made mistakes. I know that. But doesn't everyone deserve a second chance?" I stopped reading them after a while. Just let them pile up, unanswered. My silence, I realized, said more than any response could. Then, one evening while I was cooking dinner, Emma called. "Dad? Hey, sweetheart, what's up? Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Would you ever, do you think you and Mom will ever..." "No, honey, we won't." Silence on the other end. Then, "She talks about you sometimes, says she misses when things were good." "I know this is hard for you and your brother, but your mom and I are better apart. That doesn't mean we love you any less." "I know. I just thought maybe..." She trailed off. "Never mind. Emma, are you okay? Really?" "Yeah. Just wish things were different, you know?" "I do know. But different isn't always better. Sometimes it's just different." After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time. The house was quiet, clean, mine. I thought about the man I'd been a year ago, broken, ashamed, certain I'd never recover. I thought about the man I was now, whole, proud, free. Sarah could text all she wanted. She could miss me, regret her choices, wish for a second chance. But that chapter was closed, and I had no intention of opening it again. She showed up on a Saturday afternoon. I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard the car pull into my driveway. Through the window, I saw the Honda Civic, not the Lexus I remembered. My stomach tightened. I knew somehow why she was here. She stepped out slowly like she was gathering courage. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, No makeup. Sweatpants and a t-shirt. She looked tired in a way that went deeper than sleep. I met her at the door before she could knock. "Mark," she said, her voice already shaking. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "I needed to see you, to talk to you. We have a co-parenting app for that." "Not about the kids," she took a step closer. "About us." "There is no us. Please." Her eyes filled with tears. "Can I just come in? 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." Every instinct I'd developed over the past year told me to say no, to protect what I'd built, to maintain the boundaries that had saved me. But part of me, the part that had loved her once, wanted to understand, wanted to hear what she'd come to say. "You can say whatever you need to say from there," I said. She wrapped her arms around herself. "I messed up, Mark. I messed up so badly, and I didn't realize it until it was too late." "Okay. Okay." She laughed, but it was bitter. "That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Sarah? That I forgive you? That I understand? That we should try again? I want you to know that I see it now. What I did to you. How I treated you. The things I said. I was awful, and I'm so sorry." The apology I'd once desperately wanted now felt hollow, meaningless. "I appreciate that," I said, "but it doesn't change anything." "It could. We could start over. I'm different now. I understand what I had, what I threw away." "You're not different. You're just in a different situation." "That's not fair." "Fair?" The words sparked something in me. "You want to talk about fair? You humiliated me for years, made me feel worthless, left me with nothing, poisoned our kids against me, and now you show up here because your life didn't work out the way you planned, and you expect what? Sympathy? Reconciliation? I expect you to be the man I know you are, kind, forgiving, understanding. I am kind, I am forgiving, but I'm not stupid, and I'm not your backup plan." She was crying now, genuinely. "It's not like that. I love you. I still love you." "No, you don't. You love the idea of security I represent now. You love that I have a house and a good job and stability. You love that I'm not the failure you made me believe I was." "That's not true, isn't it?" I kept my voice calm, level. "If I were still in that rented room, still struggling, still the man you left, would you be here right now?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. "I thought so," I said. "Mark, please. The kids want us together. Emma told me she asked you about it. Don't." My voice went hard. "Don't use the kids to manipulate me. They're adjusting fine. They're happy when they're with me, and I assume they're okay when they're with you. That's enough. It's not enough for me. Then that's something you need to figure out. But you're not going to figure it out here, with me." I made one mistake. One mistake? I almost laughed. "Sarah, it wasn't one mistake. It was 1,000 small cruelties over years. It was systematic humiliation. It was taking everything I had, financially, emotionally, mentally, and leaving me with nothing. One mistake I could forgive. This was who you chose to be." "People change." "They do. I did. I went from the broken man you left to someone who actually likes himself, someone who has self-respect, someone who knows his worth. And part of that change was accepting that you don't get to be part of this new life." She reached out like she might touch my arm, then thought better of it. "I don't know what else to say." "You don't need to say anything else. I heard your apology. I understand you have regrets. But that doesn't obligate me to give you another chance. So that's it? You're just going to close the door on everything we had?" I looked at her then, really looked at her. Once upon a time, I would have done anything to make her happy. I would have bankrupted myself, destroyed myself, lost myself entirely. And I nearly did. "What we had," I said quietly, "was you looking down on me while I tried to measure up. What we had was me internalizing your contempt until I believed I deserved it. That's not something worth preserving." "We had good times too." "We did. Once. A long time ago. But they don't outweigh the rest. And they're not enough to build on. What if I promise it will be different? It won't be. Because fundamentally you need someone to look down on. Someone to make yourself feel superior to. And I'm not that person anymore." She stood there, tears streaming down her face. And I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just a distant, gentle finality. "I should go," she finally whispered. "Yeah, you should." "Can I ask one thing?" "What?" "Do you hate me?" I thought about that. Did I? "No," I said honestly. "I don't hate you. I don't feel much of anything about you anymore, and that's how I know I've moved on. She nodded slowly, accepting this. The kids are fine. We'll keep doing what we're doing, shared custody, co-parenting through the app, civil and respectful for their sake, but that's where it ends. Okay. She turned toward her car, then looked back. I am sorry, Mark, for whatever it's worth. It's worth acknowledging, but it's not worth going backwards. I watched her get in her car, watched her sit there for a few minutes, collecting herself, watched her drive away. Then I went inside, closed the door, and returned to organizing my garage. The house was quiet, peaceful, mine.